So over the weeks I've been building my own custom shop Telecaster style guitar, something that I hope will equal the Fender Custom Shop guitars that I've got here in the studio, but at a much lower cost and produced using only fairly basic tools. In part 1 I took a look at the foundation of any guitar project, the body and neck, choices available, and the reasons why I made the choices I did. In part 2 was sealing, priming, first coat neck lacquer stage, and Danish oil for the fretboard. It's important to get untreated wood finishes sealed within a short time of purchase due to the risk of moisture ingress, especially in a humid or damp environment. In part 3 was the colour coat, placing the decals on the headstock and final coats of amber lacquer. In part 4 I took a look at the accessories, hardware and electrics along with the process of aging chrome and nickel. In part 5 I prepared the headstock, neck and fingerboard for that Relic Custom Shop look and feel, and finishing with a final coat of clear lacquer. And now in part 6 it's time to relic the body, apply conductive paint to the cavities and a final clear coat lacquer. Hello viewer, my name's Stu. Please do check out the rest of my guitar channel as it covers my return back to playing and recording guitar after a 40-year break. So a big thank you to those that take time to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, share and comment below, because without that support the channel just doesn't show up in any of the searches. So in part 6 of my custom guitar build project video series, coming up, number 1, important preparation before embarking on irreversible actions. Number 2, let the relic work begin. Number 3, electrical paint for the cavities. Number 4, clear coat lacquer. Number 5, conclusion, final thoughts. So without further ado, number 1. Now, if you haven't watched parts 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, there's a good amount of information there and good advice if you're thinking about building your own parts caster style guitar. So I do encourage you to check those out. Again, if you're new to relicing and the very different opinions voiced on this topic, I did a video on that some time ago which you might enjoy. You'll find that on my channel under Stu's Guitar Journey 12-part video series playlist. So how do you prepare before you begin to embark on a series of actions that could turn a very nice looking guitar finish into something that leaves you feeling pretty despondent? Well, again, like the neck and headstock in the previous video, first of all, do your homework. I have the opportunity of turning to a number of Fender Custom Shop Relic guitars here in the studio to take a closer look at what's been done by the Fender Custom Shop folks and take note of anything that tends to be typical in each guitar. And once again, I can also draw upon my own memory regarding how and why some of my guitars back in my performing days began to look worn out or had signs of body finish damage. So starting on the back of the guitar body is a good place to begin, where you can get familiar with the way the tools being used have their effect on the paint or lacquer finish. So number 2, everyone's got their own approach and the following is mine. With the body neck batten removed, I place the body face down on a soft surface barrier mat. Now I know it's being reliced, but all the relicing will be done by design and not because of poor handling during the process. Starting with the smaller nicks and chips, here you can see me laying my Fender 52 Telecaster on top of the custom body to help me judge where to begin and a general idea of what I'm looking to achieve. Now I'm mainly using the edge of a fairly blunt scraper blade as this chips the finish off. I also use a cutting blade to chip away areas so they're not quite so uniform, and depending on how much pressure I apply, it determines the effect that I get. Again, you need to be careful that you don't dig the edge of the scraper into the paintwork, as this really will cause a lot more damage. Really important to do just a little bit at a time, take a step back, have a look, see how it's going. If necessary, have a coffee break and come back to it. Where the buckle rash is, I take the scraper edge and draw some lines to help give the wood a scraped appearance. And again, I'm having to be careful not to inadvertently dig into the finish with the blade, particularly that corner edge. It's really important just to do a bit at a time. And again, just care needs taken not to inadvertently dig in with the blade corner edge. Laying my Telecaster 52 on top of the project, again, just to get an idea of where I'm going to be cutting into the finish and a general idea of what it should look like. Now again, I'm not trying to copy the Fender 52, I'm just using it as a guideline, and I'll do my own variation on how I'd like to see that Relic finish look. Now I'm chipping away gently, and you can just make out the grey primer showing at the chipped edges, which is something I was looking for. This will come out more when the actual guitar body is lacquered. Now where the older has been revealed, I darken the grain by using a mild solution of dye to give the wood an aged look. Now I'm not a big fan of throwing keys or hacksaw blades at the body as some do, but I will put the odd dent and nick from a spanner edge and from my scraper handle, and I'll do that just here and there, but not too much. Now bearing in mind that any exposed timber without any sealing barrier would become contaminated or dirty in appearance. I've also used a little bit of black paint that has been diluted down using white spirit, and then I've just rubbed that into the grain. I'll rub down with some 400 grit paper very carefully in certain areas that would show more rubbing contact with the body. I begin the process of sanding the overall guitar using 2000 grit wet and dry paper, very gentle with this, and it is soaked in water with quite a bit of washing up liquid. Now I'm doing this very lightly, and all of this helps to avoid deep scratches. It's important to understand that water ingress causes wood to expand and contract, thereby causing cracking in a completed finish. There's not so much of a concern for me, as I will be deliberately cracking the finish once the final clear coat has dried. That's also known as checking. I also want a certain amount of wear to the finish. Now I've only got 3 coats of lacquer on this body, so I do need to be careful not to sand too far down to the metallic paint coat. So now I'm satisfied with the relicing work, and it's time to remove the masking tape from the cavity areas and give a light sanding and vacuum out the dust, and it's time to apply the shielding paint. So number 3, electrical paint for the cavities. Now as mentioned, this G-Shield by Ruston's, and as with all these paints, they need to be thoroughly stirred, making sure that all that electro goodness that will be lying at the bottom of the tin is fully mixed. Now 3 coats are recommended for the maximum effect, with drying times of around 30 minutes between coats. So just a quick note regarding spraying over the shielding paint. Tests have been done that show no problems doing this, and can help where some of these shielding paints have dried out and become flaky, causing electrical shorts. Number 4, clear coat lacquer. Now it is getting cold as we move into winter here in Scotland. My garage is not ideal to finish the final clear coats of lacquer. With the help of a friend, I go to his workshop, which has a professional spray booth where I can finish the guitar in a ventilated and temperature controlled environment. Now to begin, because I have exposed parts of the guitar body, the alder is now open, and so therefore I'm just spraying touches of clear coat lacquer into those areas, and I'm just going to leave that for 30 minutes. Now coming back, I'm now giving the whole guitar a misting coat. This is just a first coat and it's done very lightly. After that, I apply 2 further coats, and now these are applied more heavily, and also giving around 30 minutes between each of those coats. So with the spraying complete, the guitar body is set aside in a temperature controlled cupboard where it will be allowed to harden over the period of between 3 to 4 weeks before I can look at finishing everything off. And number 5, conclusion, final thoughts. So in part 7, I'm going to be finishing both the neck and body sanding where required. Certainly the back of the neck will have a good amount of sanding required to get that really nice feel for playing, and a final cut and polish. After which it's time to drill all the necessary holes and fit all the accessories, finally bringing the guitar together, and I'm looking forward to that. Now a quick note, it's going to be a few weeks before the next video. The nitro lacquer must be hard enough before I do anything else with it. So until then, unless you want me to cover anything else, do message me below, and I'll certainly take a look at that. Otherwise, I'll be taking a break. So in regard to any thoughts that I want to share so far, other than what I've already mentioned in previous videos, if you do have any questions, please send them in, as I'll be doing a final video covering the costs, time involved, and questions answered. Building your own parts caster style or refinishing an existing guitar, it can be a lot of fun. And if you're thinking of undertaking a guitar project, take your time, do your homework, make your lists of things to do and what to purchase, etc. So, main thing above all, enjoy the journey. So please think about subscribing, hit the bell to get notified for part 7, and share. As always, it really does help the channel out. Do check out my channel playlists, which cover my journey back to playing and recording guitar after that 40-year break. Lots of equipment reviews as I seek out the gear that I'm using in my recording sessions. So whether you're a newcomer, an ongoing player, or like me, just an old hand returning to guitar playing, I always take time to engage with folks, take time to comment. So until next time, the journey continues. Do take care.